Okay, welcome back in. I'm a day behind on my reviews for the National Football League, so I do apologize and bear with me. So heading into week number 12, I had a record of 113 and 53. I was technically 60 games above 500. We'll see how I did with my picks, and we'll go on from there. So the Cleveland Browns played host to the Pittsburgh Steelers, obviously an AFC North rival. I was so tempted to pick Cleveland because my first thought was, well, they beat Lamar and the Ravens just a couple of weeks prior to this at home, and Winston seems to have a little bit of magic still left in him. Unfortunately, the season I believe is still lost. If you're a Browns fan, I don't think you're making the playoffs, but you can sure play spoiler as to who gets in, who gets out, and where teams fit in the standings. So I did pick the Steelers to win. Unfortunately, they did not. The Browns won 24-19, and this was a crazy game because the first half the weather was perfectly fine, and then the second half it was a winter wonderland. It was just snow everywhere, and it was epic to say the least. So far I started off week 12 0-1. The Kansas City Chiefs went into Carolina to pay a visit to the Panthers. I thought that the Chiefs would have walked all over Carolina. This game actually went to overtime, and the Chiefs would end up winning. So I did predict Kansas City would win. So far I'm 1-1. But for a team that's basically a Super Bowl, well, defending Super Bowl champion, and they obviously have Super Bowl aspirations, trying to get their third in a row. When you're losing to a team like the Panthers, or so when you're barely beating a team like the Panthers, it just goes to show your defense either isn't all that great or your offense is struggling to say the least. Because I mean, this team should be dominating. They should be winning by multiple scores. It shouldn't come down to a field goal to be the difference. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure a lot of their wins are really close. I remember, I'll never forget being a Broncos fan. Obviously, that they blocked the field goal that could have ended their perfect season at that time. And there was so much drama at the start. I remember when Baltimore played Kansas City in the opening game, and how that infamous toe was on the outside line. Otherwise, it would have been a touchdown. There's just been so many close calls with this Chiefs team that it's hard for me to think of them as being dominant. Because again, if the Panthers are putting up a fight against the Chiefs, that just goes to show that anybody can beat Kansas City. So we'll see how they do the rest of the schedule. The Chicago Bears played host to the Minnesota Vikings. Now, I predicted Chicago would win, and this was close. It took overtime to decide a winner. Minnesota would end up being victorious 30-27, the exact same score as the Chiefs game. But the Bears put up a fight. I'm not going to lie. It was a close game to say the least, and entertaining to say the least. I will go over the standings here once I get through with all the scores. So far 1-2 with the picks. Not the best start that I was hoping for. Okay, now the next game, I believe, took place in Houston as the Texans played host to the Tennessee Titans. Now, I think everybody and their mother would have predicted that Tennessee would lose this game because of how poor they are. And if you look at Will Levis, I should say, compared to CJ Stroud, well, CJ Stroud should be this more superior quarterback, but he's definitely hit a bit of a road bump, yeah, in the to say the least. Now, there's really no panic if you're a Texans fan, because you're still in first place and you're almost a lock to get into the playoffs unless you have a horrendous end of the season and go on like a 6-game losing streak. Then I'm sure there'll be heads rolling to say the least. But a very tough loss. But with division games, anything can happen. I mean, like I said in the previous game, the Bears could have easily upset Minnesota. And the Browns obviously upset Pittsburgh. So whenever it comes to a division matchup, you really can't take that team for granted. It doesn't matter if they have 2 wins, 3 wins, 0 wins for all that I have to say. But yeah, a very tough loss for the Texans. Obviously, if the playoffs started now, they would have the 4th seed. I'm sure they would love to be able to jump up and try to get to the 3rd seed or even the 2nd seed. But if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that the Bills and the Chiefs have double-digit wins. Now, don't quote me on that. Maybe the Bills only have 9 wins, but I know the Chiefs for sure have 10 wins after their win over Carolina. So 1-3 to start with my predictions. Not the best start when it came to week number 12. All right, Indy was playing host to the Detroit Lions. I did predict that Detroit would win. They won by 18 points, 24-6. They wasn't as dominant as the week before when they put up like 40 some odd points, but still a win is a win. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure the Lions are the best team in the NFC. So 2-3 as we speak with my predictions of how many I have correct compared to incorrect. The Miami Dolphins played host to the New England Patriots. And don't look now, but this Dolphins team is starting to get on a bit of a roll. Now, yes, they're still technically below 500, but I'm pretty sure they've won at least 3, maybe even 4 games in a row. So this could be a dangerous team. This could be one of those teams that people sleep on. But man, if they start getting their ish together and get on a bit of a winning streak, which they are on currently, who knows what can happen with this team. They could find themselves in a wild card spot. Yes, they're still technically a game and a half behind Denver, if I'm not mistaken, but anything can happen on any given Sunday. So, with the victory, I am now back to 3-3 with my predictions. Sorry, 0-1, 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 2-3, 3-3. Yeah, back to 500. All right, now we're off to New York as the Giants played host to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I did predict that Tampa would win this game, and no surprise there. 30-7 would be the final score. The big thing for the Giants was how not Danny DeVito, but Tony DeVito, I believe, got the starting job, and if I'm not mistaken, Daniel Jones got benched. And I just read today that he actually, he got cut by the Giants, I think yesterday, the day before. Now he's signed with Minnesota. So he's going to be the backup to Sam Darnold. And he may very well possibly see the playoffs. And who would have guessed you'd have Daniel Jones in a playoff possibility when the Giants are obviously falling apart, but now he's no longer a part of the Giants. I'm just curious as to how much money the Giants are going to have to eat, because that was a big contract that they offered him, if I'm not mistaken, 2 years ago. And I think it was north of $200 million, if I'm not mistaken. That's a lot of cheddar to be, if it ends up being like a dead cap thing, then that's a lot of money that they can't use to get anybody. So whenever it comes to cutting players, it'd be just different if they're either a veteran and they're on a really good contract. But yeah, that contract that Daniel Jones signed with the Giants, it just looked worse and worse as the days go along. I would say I'm surprised that he got cut, but not surprised at the same time, because underperformance and overpaid equals for a very bad time. Anyways, enough about my rant about the Giants and the Daniel Jones thing. So yeah, the Buccaneers won. It was a pretty big win, and I'll take a look at the standings, like I said, once I get through with this. So with that prediction being correct, I'm above 500 with a record of 4-3. All right, the next matchup took place in the NFC East, and the Commanders played host to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, heading into this matchup, I did predict that Washington would win, only because they were looking so dominant and so great. But after back-to-back losses, if I'm not mistaken, to the Eagles and the Cowboys respectively, it's definitely put a bit of a damper on the Commanders' fortune. But again, as I said before, when it comes to division games, you can never predict who's actually going to win. It doesn't matter if the Washington Commanders had a better record than the Dallas Cowboys heading into the matchup. Anything can happen when it comes to division games. So, crucial loss for the Commanders. As for the Cowboys, I still think they're too far out of it to get back in it when it comes to the playoffs, and there's always next season. So, with my loss on this one, I think I'm back to 4-4. 8. Yep, 4-4. Okay. The next matchup took place in the AFC West as my Denver Broncos went into Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. This was a close game. I think I caught the second half of the game, if I'm not mistaken. And it was a lot closer than I anticipated. 29-19 would be the final score in favor of Denver. Obviously, it's a huge win. With that, I'm pretty sure they were 7-5, but I will double check when I click on the standings here in just a second. They do currently have the number 7 seed as the wild card team. So if the playoffs started now, their decade of darkness would finally be over. And man, I just want to have this team make the playoffs. I so badly want to have this team make the playoffs. And Bo Nix has proven that he is definitely the franchise quarterback moving forward. Obviously, he's on a rookie contract, so I think, if I'm not mistaken, they have 3 years on the rookie contract before they have to start their negotiations for a longer term. But he's looking like a veteran out there. And when he did his post-game interview, I can't remember who was interviewing him, But man, he sounded so mature and just really intelligent. And I love that kid. And I really hope that the Broncos keep him for a long time. And we'll see how much success he is able to bring to the Mile High City. As for the Raiders, another tough loss. They're looking at maybe getting a possible top five pick at the road they're going. If they just keep losing out the rest of their season, maybe they'll get a top three pick, top two pick. Maybe they'll get the top pick in the entire NFL. Who knows? But the big thing for the Raiders going into next season is they definitely have a lot of questions when it comes to their quarterback. Who is it going to be? It definitely can't be Gardner Minshew the third. Just he's a turnover machine, and now he's hurt and he's gone for the rest of the year. So if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure Pat O'Connell will get the nod at the quarterback position for the remaining weeks 13 to week 18. So with that win, I believe I was 5-4 after 9 games. Green Bay Packers played host to the injury-plagued San Francisco 49ers. 38-10 would be the final score in favor of Green Bay. I did predict that they would win. I didn't think it was going to be this much of a blowout. With that being said, though, obviously no Brock Purdy and a lot of injuries to a lot of other players definitely played a factor into the 49ers loss. And it's a shame because heading into this season, I thought this team was bound to get back to the Super Bowl after they made it last year. But they're now fighting for their playoff lives. Let's be realistic. And I'm sure they're very thankful though that in the division they're in, it's not like the first place is really out of reach. But when you only have 5 games left or 6 games left, whatever the case may be, it's definitely not going to be easy to try to get into a postseason position. So I'll put a check mark beside Green Bay since I picked them to win. And now, back in the NFC West, the Seattle Seahawks played host to the Arizona Cardinals. I did predict that Seattle would win this game. It was a low-scoring game, as you can see. 16-6 was the final score. A defensive struggle, to say the least. I'm not surprised that the Seahawks won. If I'm not mistaken, I think now they're in first place. I'm almost 100% sure that they are now in first place of that NFC West. But again, once I get through with the last couple of games, we will double-check the standings. The Sunday night matchup took place in Los Angeles as the Rams played host to the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I did predict that Philly would win this game. 37-20 would be the final score, as you can see on the screen. With the victory, I'm pretty sure the Eagles are still in first place in the NFC East. They're looking like legitimate contenders now. If they can keep this mojo rolling and not have a collapse like they did last season, who knows where they're going to finish and who knows how far they can go once the postseason gets underway. And as for the Rams, a very tough loss. I'm pretty sure they're below 500 now. But again, with that NFC West, just because I'm pretty sure the first place team has 6 wins and the Rams still have 5. So, like, it's wide open. Yes, there's only 5 or 6 weeks left, but this could come down to week 18 as to who's going to get that NFC West title. And the Monday night game also took place in Los Angeles as the Chargers played host to the Ravens. A quick little side thing, actually 2 quick little side things before I go over the game. The Rams and Chargers both share a stadium, so they can never play at the exact same time. So there's probably a reason why they had the Rams play Sunday night and then the Chargers play Monday night. And then the second thing that I forgot to talk about when I did my preview was this is like another Harbaugh ball. You had John Harbaugh and Jim Harbaugh coaching against each other for the first time in over a decade. Because if I'm not mistaken, the last time that Jim Harbaugh coach was like the 2014-2015 season when he was with the San Francisco 49ers. And obviously John's been with the Ravens for almost 2 decades now. But yeah, the older brother would get the better of the younger brother. 30-23 would be the final score in favor of Baltimore, who I did predict would win the game. So I'm pretty sure I finished above 500. I will go over my picks here in just a quick second. The teams that had their bye week were the Atlanta Falcons. They're sitting at 6-5. The Bills are 9-2. The Bengals are 4-7. The Jaguars are 2-9. The Saints are 4-7, and the Jets are 3-8. Kind of feels silly for going over their record when I'm going over all the teams' records as we speak right now. So I will do it through the conference. So I'll see if I can load up the 7 teams on the screen. So the Kansas City Chiefs are in first place with a record of 10-1. The Buffalo Bills are 9-2. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 8-3, and the Houston Texans are 7-5. The first wildcard team in the AFC would be the Baltimore Ravens. They have a record of 8-4. The Los Angeles Chargers are 7-4, and the Denver Broncos are 7-5. The teams on the outside looking in, the Miami Dolphins, who I talked about just previously, they have a record of 5-6, so they are technically a game and a half behind the Broncos. Can they catch up to them? Sure, they can. Like I said, I'm pretty sure they're on a 3 or 4 game winning streak, so they definitely are doing something right in Miami. So we'll see how Week 13 goes for both the Broncos and the Dolphins, and see if one team can start to move away, and see if the other team can possibly creep up. The Indianapolis Colts are 2 games behind the Broncos with a record of 5-7. The Cincinnati Bengals are 4-7. It's going to be tough for the Bengals, I believe, to climb out of that hole. The Browns are right behind the Bengals. Who would have guessed that? Just 1 game behind the Bengals this late in the season. They are 3-8. The New York Jets are also 3-8. The Tennessee Titans, they're also 3-8. And after the loss, the Patriots are 3-9. The Jacksonville Jaguars and the Las Vegas Raiders are both respectively 2-9. So I think it's pretty safe to say that the Ravens, Jaguars, Patriots, Titans, Jets, and the Browns are officially not making the playoffs. If Cincinnati can possibly win, I don't know, 4 of the last 5 games, maybe they have a chance. But again, look at all the teams they have to climb over just to make the postseason. So Cincy, I'd say they're pretty much on life support at this point if they were to just try to make the playoffs. As I said before, Indy's only 2 games behind Denver. So if Indy happens to win 2 games, Denver happens to lose 2 games, Indy would, I'm guessing, possibly take over the playoff spot. But with that being said, Miami's right in the middle of that picture as well. So if Miami happens to win in Week 13 and Week 14, and Denver happens to lose Week 13 and then Week 15, then who knows what can happen with that 7th seed in the AFC. All right, now we'll take a look at the NFC side of things. As I said before, the Detroit Lions are in first place with a record of 10-1. The Philadelphia Eagles are 9-2. The Seattle Seahawks are in first place in the NFC West with a record of 6-5. The Atlanta Falcons are also 6-5. They are the top seed in the NFC North. The Minnesota Vikings have the number 1 wildcard spot. They are 9-2. The Green Bay Packers have the number 2 wildcard spot with a record of 8-3. And rounding out the top 7 are the Washington Commanders. Despite their loss to the Cowboys, they still technically have the 7th wildcard position. The Arizona Cardinals are right on their tail, however. They're sitting at 6-5. They're technically only a half game back of the Commanders. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 5-6, so I think they're a game and a half back of Washington as well. The Rams are also 5-6, as are the San Francisco 49ers. So there's 3 teams that are tied with a record of 5-6. The next 3 teams in the NFC are the New Orleans Saints, the Chicago Bears, and the Dallas Cowboys. They all have the same record at 4-7. The Carolina Panthers are 3-8, and the New York Giants are 2-9. So I think it's safe to say that the Giants, Panthers, Cowboys, Bears, Saints are likely not going to be making the playoffs. But look how crowded that is from San Francisco all the way to Washington. It's only like a lot of those teams are only separated by a game or 2 games. So again, there's still lots of season left to be played in the NFL. And yeah, that's going to take care of my recap from week 12, I apologize, of the National Football League season. I will either have a video uploaded today or at worst case scenario tomorrow morning with my predictions of week 13 of the NFL. And I'm super pumped. I'm super excited. I plan on watching football all day tomorrow. It is American Thanksgiving, which means the annual 3 games on tap. And I cannot wait to watch all 3 of those games. Alrighty, as always, if you're new to this channel and you like this type of content, feel free to hit the sub button. I'd be very grateful and very appreciative. Until next time, and as always, take care.